There's a war happening right now that most people think is between two countries. It's not. There are three players on this board, and one of them is supposed to be on America's side. Let me show you something that broke my brain when I first figured it out. Every single time the US and Iran got close to a deal, and I mean close, like negotiators in the same room, phones on the table, pens ready, something blew up. Literally, a missile. An airstrike, a convoy hit, someone important gets killed or injured, and the talks collapse every single time. Now, you can call that a coincidence, once, maybe twice, but we're talking about a pattern so consistent, so precise in its timing, that even the President of the United States casually mentioned on live TV, "I don't want them to get killed," when asked which Iranian official would be leading negotiations. Let that sink in. The US president is publicly acknowledging that Iran's peace negotiators are being assassinated before they can negotiate peace. And nobody is saying out loud who's doing it, but we all know. So let's talk about the real war, not the one on the news, the one underneath it. Here's what the mainstream narrative gets completely wrong. This conflict is being sold to you as America versus Iran, two sides. Good guys, bad guys, pick your team. But that framing is so incomplete, it's almost dishonest, because there's a third player who has completely different goals from everyone else. And that third player is willing to bomb its way to those goals, even if it means bombing against American interests. I know that sounds insane. Stay with me. Let's go back to basics. Why did this war even start? You've got Iran sitting on one of the most strategically vital choke points on the planet, the Strait of Hormuz. About a fifth of the world's oil flows through that narrow stretch of water. Iran closed it, not metaphorically, literally. They said nothing moves unless we say so. Global markets went into free fall. Oil prices spiked. Supply chains that had already been limping since the pandemic just snapped. And suddenly, the entire world economic order was being held hostage by a country the size of Alaska, with a GDP smaller than the Netherlands. America had to respond. Trump launched strikes. The war began. But here's the question nobody is asking loudly enough. What does each side actually need to stop? Because here's the dirty secret. The US and Iran's core demands, they're not that far apart. Iran wants money to rebuild. Their refineries, bridges, hospitals, gone. They want sanctions lifted so their economy can breathe again. They want the strait to be a negotiation chip, not a permanent battlefield. America wants the strait open so oil keeps flowing and the global economy doesn't collapse. They want limits on Iran's nuclear program. They want stability in Lebanon. That's it. Strip away the political theater, the press conferences, the aggressive posturing, and you've got two exhausted countries who both want out of a war that's costing them billions every week. The US has already quietly signaled it's open to sanctions relief. Iran has already shown it's willing to negotiate. They've been passing messages through Pakistan. They came this close to sitting down face to face. So why isn't there peace? This is where it gets dark. On April 11th, VP Vance sits down with Iranian officials. Historic. The first direct high-level contact in years. The vibe, according to multiple sources, was cautiously optimistic. People are talking. Real talking. Same day, Israel bombs Lebanon's capital. Hundreds killed. The ceasefire terms Iran had agreed to included Lebanon. Now that's out the window. Talks collapse. 2 weeks earlier, a senior Iranian diplomat named Kamal Harzai starts quietly brokering peace. He's the back channel guy, the fixer, the one person who has the relationships on both sides to actually close a deal. An airstrike hits his home. His wife is killed. He survives barely. Then there's Ali Larijani, prominent Iranian political figure, the kind of person who could have led Iran's negotiating team, gets killed. One expert tells The Guardian directly, Netanyahu is blocking Trump's pathways to a ceasefire. Larijani was the man who could have made it happen. Iran's foreign minister gets put on Israel's official kill list. Pakistan found out. Warned the US. The US told Israel to stand down. Pakistan's message was blunt. If you kill him, there is no one left to talk to. Read that again. Pakistan is warning America that their own ally is assassinating the people America needs to make peace. This isn't a rogue operation. This isn't miscommunication. This is strategy. Here's what Israel actually wants from this war. And I need you to understand this clearly because it changes everything. Israel announced publicly, openly, two goals about a month into the fighting. First, occupy southern Lebanon, permanently expand their territory northward into Lebanese land. That's not defense. That's conquest. Second, collapse the Iranian political system entirely. Not just weaken Iran. Not just limit their nuclear program. Destroy the regime. Regime change. Now think about that for a second. If those are Israel's goals, what does a US-Iran peace deal mean for Israel? It means Iran survives. It means the regime stays in power. It means the Strait reopens and Iran gets sanctions relief and rebuilds. It means Lebanon gets a ceasefire and Israeli expansion stops.
A US-Iran deal is the worst possible outcome for Israel's war aims. So from Israel's perspective, every time peace gets close, you kill it. Literally, you bomb the negotiators. You bomb Lebanon. You bomb the infrastructure of diplomacy itself. And here's the absolutely wild part. America keeps letting it happen. The head of the US Defense Intelligence Agency, not some anonymous leak, not a think tank pundit, the actual head of the DIA, testified in front of Congress just days ago and said something that should have been front page news everywhere. He said Iran has expanded its war objectives. They no longer just want regime survival. They now want concessions. They want to leverage the Strait of Hormuz not just as a weapon, but as a permanent economic asset, potentially $60 billion a year in toll revenues.
They understand now that closing the strait is easier and more powerful than any nuclear weapon they could ever build. Think about that shift. Iran started this conflict fighting for survival. Now they're fighting from a position of leverage. And the DIA head also said this, and I want to be really precise here because it contradicts months of White House messaging. He said Iran's supreme leader maintained the nuclear weapons ban even after US and Israeli strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities. The whole justification for the war's most aggressive strikes was that Iran was racing to build a bomb. The head of Pentagon intelligence just said publicly they weren't. Why is nobody talking about this?
And now we have the indefinite ceasefire. Trump extended it, not for a week, not for 2 weeks, indefinitely. The official line is they're waiting for Iran to come up with a unified proposal. The unofficial reality is that Iran refused to show up to the Pakistan talks. And the US blinked. Inside Iranian hardliner circles, the IRGC, the Revolutionary Guard commanders, this is being celebrated as a humiliation of Trump. He drew a deadline. He made threats about hitting energy infrastructure, bridges, everything. The deadline passed, no strikes, just a ceasefire extension. Meanwhile, the US Navy is seizing Iranian ships around the world, 2 in 48 hours. Boarding them in international waters. It's this weird middle ground. Not peace, not war, just this cold standoff where both sides are bleeding. And in that vacuum, Israel continues to operate.
America is caught in an impossible position. They have a formal alliance with Israel. They provide weapons, intelligence, diplomatic cover. To publicly acknowledge that Israel is actively undermining American foreign policy would mean confronting something politically explosive. So instead, they dance around it. Trump hints at it on TV. The peace deal that could end this war keeps getting murdered. In a 3-sided conflict, any peace between 2 sides is automatically a threat to the third. So the third side has every incentive to be the spoiler. America still publicly calls Israel an ally. Meanwhile, the intelligence chief of the US military is testifying that the situation is far more complicated than anyone is admitting. The question isn't whether America and Iran can make a deal. They almost already have. The question is whether America is ready to protect that deal from the country that's been trying to kill it.